about a year. So let me add you to the stream. There's Michelo. So, hello. Thanks
Hi.
for meeting me online. It's so nice of you. So you're in Zambia right now,
Yeah,
but you do most of your studies in South Africa, don't you? That's where you were
yeah.
when you were with me. Yeah. So, how did you come to be with Ocad then? Kind of, what was your kind of bit of a story to meet me and get online?
So in Zambia, the art scene is like maybe how I can say it's like not taken the most seriously, and
Mm-hmm.
I still am very passionate about art, and like at the high school I was at, I just felt like my teacher was not really providing the most out of my art education,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted more out of my art. So I went looking around for Cambridge like art courses, and
Yeah.
I came across Ocad, and I told my dad about it, and like
Mm-hmm.
I told them how much I wanted to, like get better and
Yeah.
excel in stuff. So he was okay with me doing online classes, and that is more or less how I
Yeah,
started.
how you started.
Yeah.
Cool. Because you kind of took to the course really well. And I think for a lot of students, if they've got experience going in, they kind of, I don't know, just feel more confident to get going. Were you okay with the online thing straight away? Because you obviously had some basic skills or beyond basic when you started.
Um, I think starting was really exciting for me because I looked at all the tasks, and I had that beginner's enthusiasm. So that was
Mm-hmm.
really fun for me. And I think when I first started, I was a bit confused because you started with task 15, and I thought I just got here. Why are we on task 15?
Yes.
But it was just I
You
came
kind of
to
went with it, didn't you? You
yeah
were in the live lessons with me, weren't you? So
yeah
yeah, we'll paint a picture for those watching, because the students at the at OCAD now will know exactly what you mean, that you start at any time in the year, don't you? So when you come
yeah.
in, we're kind of teaching the program in a very ad hoc kind of way and doing
Mhm.
lots of different tasks in different orders, and it can be personalized, and some students like to do them very methodically and have it
Mm,
in
mm.
numerical order. But it was lovely having you in lessons, because looking at your portfolio again before we came on, it does start with task 15. It's like this
Yeah,
landscape thing, so
yeah,
it seems a bit jumbled, but it isn't, because it kind of just worked in the end, and your
it
portfolio
did.
flows really nicely.
Yeah. And after task 15, everything sort of goes in order, but I wanted to put task 15 at the beginning because
Mm-hmm.
that's when I just started, and like I feel like my skills were like I feel like my skills just progressed a lot more. Like
Mm-hmm.
before task 14, my skills would have like excelled from
Yes,
task 15. So that's why it's first as
I
well.
understand. Let me share it, because I've got it here. So I'm going to share your screen now. So there you go. Your portfolio's up on the screen now. So this is Michelo's kind of, we call it a skill builder. And so there are 17 tasks, and you did all of them, didn't you? You kind of worked through the whole program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And I remember there was like about 3 months where I was like focusing on trying to get as many tasks done as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
I did eventually manage to do all the tasks, I believe.
Yeah, you did. So scroll through, let's kind of remind ourselves and show people kind of how you put this together. So task 15, we were kind of doing a bit of an Aboriginal thing. So if you just flick through, and feel free to stop wherever you'd like to.
Yeah, so with the Aboriginals, their artwork was basically maps. So this is like a sky view, a bird's eye view of where I live, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I tried to translate that into. Sorry, the photos aren't showing up,
Are they not
but
coming up? Maybe they'll load in a second. No, they're
me,
not loading.
me, I'll just bear with this for
Yeah,
now.
that's okay. Do it from there.
Yeah. So my first try was that, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I just used acrylic ink and
Yeah.
like a brush or something.
Yes, yeah. Very simple.
Yeah.
How did you feel? Because it's one of the big things, and you were doing it right from the get-go, is to do your kind of inspiration research and then put that
Yeah.
style into your own art. Did you find that really hard to begin with, like doing your own photos, or did you kind of like making it your own?
I definitely really like making it my own, because another thing which I really liked about it was the fact that it's Aboriginal art. Like, you wouldn't usually think about that. So
Mm-hmm.
that really intrigued me. I remember when I first
Yeah.
started, because it was just so different. And
Yeah.
you'll see with the next photos, like, we just did
Mm-hmm.
something like completely different to each other, but they're all
Mm-hmm.
landscapes. And
Yeah.
I found, or Aboriginal art, I think it takes a lot of patience, because there's a lot of stippling, as you can see from this
Mm-hmm.
first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it does require quite a bit of creativity. Like, this was my second attempt, and I just used a gel pen here,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that was the map.
Yeah.
But this is the Aboriginal art, and it's quite complex,
Yeah.
so, and intricate.
Mm-hmm.
And this was me just trying to, test things out.
Yeah,
And
replicate that and try and learn how they do it, which, as you
yeah,
say, it was quickly apparent it's very time consuming, which a lot of this art is, isn't it? So
yeah.
were there all these kind of new to you? Like, we taught you a lot of new art, did we, that you hadn't really seen or learnt about before?
Definitely, especially um the movements of art. Like, this is Aboriginal art, and I think it's very impressionist in nature with all the
Mm-hmm.
stippling. But
Mm-hmm.
I learned Impressionism, like the
Oh
Monet
yes.
Impressionism as
Mm-hmm.
well. And
Mm-hmm.
these are acrylic studies, and you'll see there's like an oil pastel and a chalk pastel. I was just trying out different mediums, and I think this was like my first real exposure to art movements in general.
I see.
And that was really engaging to me. I really liked that about Ocad.
Mm-hmm.
And
You experimented really well, because I think for some students it's really hard to kind of just have a go at all the different kinds of media, because you've got to be quite
yeah,
brave, haven't you? Because some things don't work, then to actually
definitely.
share that with the tutors online can be quite scary to begin with. But you kind of, I don't know, you it seemed like you enjoyed that process of just trying and experimenting with all these new
Oh
things.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Like,
Mm.
here you can see it really more or less didn't work. Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
really show up very well. And these
Yeah.
were studies, and these were the first time I was doing studies, like proper studies. We didn't
Mhm.
really do studies at my high school, but I
Mhm.
think that's what also intrigued me as well, just the fact that I was learning from artists, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing that we do. It's the way I learnt as well, and I think how we went through school as tutors and what we've experienced obviously goes into our teaching. And I used to love personally as well looking at other artists and learning from them and then applying it in my own way. So kind of that
Yeah.
process is a very common theme in OCAD, and I think it's just because of the nature of maybe just the tutoring. But I'm glad you really enjoyed that. I mean, scroll through, because we did David Hockney as well, didn't we? So we did
Yeah.
Impressionist, then we did David Hockney, and your final piece, I mean, it's just so lovely, because you had all these amazing photos from where you live, and you had a pool. I mean, was
Oh
that from
yeah.
your house? It's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it was at my house. And like, I thought, this is David Hockney, as we said. And I really, really, really like David Hockney. He's like
Mhm.
one of my favorites now
Yeah,
from learning about him.
yeah.
And
So
this
these
was a
styles were
core
so different,
study.
weren't they? I mean, Aboriginal to Impressionist to David Hockney, you can't really get
Yeah,
much different. But you chose
yeah,
David Hockney in the end,
exactly.
didn't you?
I tried to sort of combine all the three, like, I'll
Hmm.
explain.
Okay.
But this was the David Hockney in gouache. This was my study in gouache, and then
Okay.
I did a digital art study,
Hmm.
and I just put this didn't take too long, I don't think.
Mm.
And this was my pool
Hmm.
that um you were talking about, and
Yeah. I
I thought
remember.
it
It's
was
a year
very,
ago. I remember this.
yeah. And I think I chose it because pools were one of David Hockney's like signatures, I think.
Hmm.
And also the little house in the background also
Yeah,
just reminded me of his style.
yeah.
And I wanted to sort of combine the digital art and the gouache, I believe.
Hmm.
So I sort of this was like a test out. And another thing with David Hockney is he really likes digital art, which we also came to
Yeah,
learn in class.
yeah.
So this was one of David Hockney's pieces, and
Hmm.
I tried to imitate that on my own tablet. I have a drawing tablet,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I just used one of my programs. And another thing about David Hockney is he uses such out there colors. Like this was not the
Yeah.
color of the wall fence or the
Hmm.
house, but I wanted to like try and emulate his out there color palette.
Yeah, that's so
And
nice of you to mention, because I think a lot of students, they'll see their photo and they try and replicate it, don't they, to try and get the realistic colors. But I think
yeah,
because you were so brave to branch out there, I mean, you can see from the result there that it just works. It's just so lovely, and it doesn't matter that it wasn't, you didn't have, a purple wall, but that
yeah,
it's now your impression of it, and I think it looks really cool.
thank you. And this was more David Hockney art. I don't
Mhm.
exactly know which medium he used, but I just opted to use gouache, and
Yeah,
I did the other half of the photo in gouache,
I
and
see.
I made the table red to sort of go
Hmm.
with the theme, and the
Yeah.
house blue, and that was my David Hockney inspired piece. And then like for my final project, it was I tried to combine Impressionism,
Mm-hmm.
Aboriginal art, and Hockney style.
Hmm.
And I sort of came up with this. I don't know if I tried to incorporate Aboriginal art actually after looking at this, but I tried
Mm.
to stipple a little bit
You were
here.
trying to get the strokes from the Impressionists, you can tell that,
Yeah,
yeah. But this is just so, it's very developmental, isn't it? It's very, you're trialing on new things, you're just giving things a go.
yeah,
And when you get to your final thing, you've got something that, works, because you've tried all these different ways before you've got
yeah,
there. I mean, you wait till you
definitely.
see this final piece. I remember it just being so lovely.
Thank you. And
Mhm.
another thing with OCAD is I thought the process of like planning composition, which is what we'll see in the next task. I think I just moved on to task one. But like here we were planning composition and stuff and
Oh, yeah, rule of thirds
trying
and things. You can
and
see.
that's my
You've done that,
cat, which
yeah.
you
Mhm.
just saw.
Mhm.
And I thought that really helped with the final outcome as it naturally would.
Mhm.
But I'm also using like that sort of mentality with A level two as
Nice.
it
Great.
naturally would.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I believe this was just I think in this lesson you were teaching about how to use a camera and stuff.
Yeah,
So
we have a couple of photography tasks, didn't we? And because a lot of
yeah,
students do just love photography as well, but we use that
yeah.
as such a fundamental first-hand study, so that
Mm,
you can use your own stuff and your own
mm.
objects, your own environments to produce your own art. So kind of that's what you did here. Your cat is a model cat. It just sat there so
Yeah,
well taking photos.
she is very model-esque with her expressions and all. I was very lucky to have a post here, but anyway,
Mhm.
um, I remember I really liked the green against like the
Mhm.
orange-ish red of that, so I was keeping colors in mind. I
Yeah.
think I don't remember if I did task 8 before this, which is the color
The
task, or if
colour
I
one,
just
yeah.
had
We'll get to that in a minute, so we'll see.
yeah,
'Cause, yeah, you might have muddled up the order a little to what we learned, but it
yeah,
doesn't matter. All
yeah,
this is just evidence, isn't it, towards passing the
mhm,
criteria for the course. It's all just, yeah, evidence of trying. So it didn't really matter what order
yeah.
it went in, but it seems quite logical. So you've got all these photos, and where did this go then? So you've done your photography, and then you're on to painting it, right?
Oh, I didn't paint this. I think with task one, it was like composition
Oh, I
and then
see.
knowing
Okay, you're
positive
doing
and
main.
negative space. So after that, I was just doing this, and I remember I didn't quite get the concept at first, even though I feel like this title like explains it very well, just the title alone. But I remember I didn't quite understand. But like with my corrected knowledge, like positive space is the things that are like clear and
yes.
black, and like
Yes.
and the negative space are just the spaces made from the shapes that you see. So
You're
it's
right,
spelling out
around.
with
So
not
yeah,
accent.
all that composition knowledge really helps, doesn't it, when you're putting your art together, because you're seeing not just the
Yeah,
object itself, but what's around it, and that kind of
exactly.
learning is really important. So I'm glad I remember covering this. So we do tasks all different, you see. So the last 12 months we've done the 17 tasks again, but we've kind of approached them differently, because all these are recorded for our students, so they can still watch what you've produced here now, but the new live lessons aren't going to repeat exactly what we did. They're going to do it again in another way, so there's kind of double or triple the resources, and students can use any really, but they will see from this that the lessons are there if they wanted to now go back and do this positive negative test. You did really good at this. I think it helped your composition a lot.
Yeah, like I try to keep this positive negative space in mind a lot, especially like here with the G. You can see there's like an arrow here and like a thingy here, which is making up the G. And I think that leads to the next lesson, which was, sorry, this was like the inspiration. So we just had to cut out a shape and then flip
and then
it.
see if you could balance it for positive negative. Cool.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, but yeah. And this was just the inspiration. It's from a game I really like.
Okay.
So, and yeah, so this was still task one, which is observational drawing. And I remember you were talking about how you should see shapes instead of like a
The
hand,
way
for
you've just
example.
explained the G and the shapes that you can see around it is exactly what task one is, isn't it? It's how
Yeah.
to see objects. You were really, very good at observation. How do you feel you were before Ocad? I mean, you must have had some ability, technical ability on drawing,
Oh
and
yeah.
before
As
you
I
came. But did this kind of just refine it for you, do you think?
Yeah, it really did. Like as I said, I was really passionate about art, but I was lacking knowledge in the fine art realm, and I really like drawing portraits. And
As we'll see very soon, we'll kind of speed up through this because there's so many pages on here, but
they are
I've got
quite
to show everyone your portrait work because wow, it's amazing.
cute. But I did draw quite a bit before OCAD, but I was mainly drawing anime-esque things, but I think that was good enough for my skill set. Like
Yes.
I
It got your skills, isn't it? We have so many students that sit and will draw and sketch all these kind of anime and manga characters, and they absolutely love it. And it is a fundamental learning tool. I mean, a lot of students come to us who can draw from doing that over and over again. So it's lovely for you to mention that, because I'm sure there's lots of students who feel, that's their skill, but you managed to refine it in this fine art way.
definitely.
Quite incredibly.
So with this task, I found that whole notion of, okay, so basically we had to draw something the right way up and upside down. And the right way up, I mean, drawing it upside down, we found that it was drawn more accurately in the end. So, and a reason that is because like your brain doesn't quite recognize what it's seeing. So it's just drawing what's actually there, which is pretty interesting.
But it helps you, doesn't it, when you're observing now the right way up? You're seeing things as shapes, and you're kind of applying that same thought process, even though you don't have to draw upside down forever. It's just the concept of getting you to think that way. So show us some more of your observation stuff then, because it's quite incredible. We do lots of pencil work, as you can see. I mean, your tonal drawing's really good. You can shade very, very nicely, as you can see. What did you choose to do as your observation in pencil? Did you find pencil quite easy, by the way? You obviously were quite comfortable with a pencil.
Actually, I think this was like my first real time act, like properly
Using them. Oh, really? Because
pencil.
you're so good at it. But we do the demonstrations and go through it. But you
Yeah,
just seem to,
yeah.
I don't know, pick up on the skill very quick. But
I'm not too sure. I think I do have a lot of experience with art, more especially digital art, so that probably helped with the
helps.
transfer
Yeah.
of
But it
skills.
translates both ways,
It
doesn't it? If you're
does.
good at digital, it'll help you with drawing. If you're good at drawing, you can go digital. I think they go hand in
Mhm.
hand.
They
Yeah.
really do.
So task 3, was it a pencil case or a?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
you
like
did
a purse.
charcoal. Really good with
So
charcoal.
yeah, task 3 was charcoal, then task 4 was the graphite still life. And it was just this little purse of mine.
Oh yeah, you
And
did. Yeah,
yeah.
you
And
did a very
this
nice
was,
drawing.
sorry?
You did a very nice drawing of this. It's
Oh,
simple, you know. Some students try
yeah.
to draw, like 10 objects on a table, but less is more sometimes. Just to, you know.
Mm. And I think with the little metallic
Mm,
thingy here, it does help. It does look nice with graphite drawing when you're
yeah,
doing metallics.
yeah.
So I so
Yeah,
that's
if you show your
basically,
cutlery, it shows, doesn't it? Because you went on to that and you really could draw them metal very well with those reflections. Because that's what we do for
yeah.
task 5, just for anyone who's not with Ocad watching.
And this was it like in perspective. I thought it looked pretty cool,
Mm,
so that's why I added
mhm.
it here. And this was task 5, and we did photography, so it was capturing like
Mhm.
metals in general. And I just had like a mirror here, and this was black paper, and it reflected
Mhm.
really nicely. And task 5 was more like the tonal scale.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
another thing with OCAD is it really did help with my tonal variation, like the contrast and
Mhm.
stuff.
You
Cause
think you became braver? You really made it extreme to
yeah,
understand, yeah.
yeah.
We do
So
push for that, but you're very, very good at it. Because when it translated into your portrait work, that must have helped a lot.
oh, it did definitely. And this was a study I did in graphite pencil. I remember. Well, I think I didn't like it too much, so I just
Mhm.
moved on to
Mhm.
charcoal.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's brave to show it. So many students give up or they think, oh, I just can't do that. But finding another
mhm,
way to do it is the way forward, isn't it?
mhm,
So, yeah, you did it
yeah,
in China. So,
experimentation is very important. And
mm.
I think I didn't quite fancy the charcoal either. So I remember watching your videos, and you were teaching the different types of ways, but I think I was just really interested in the ink and bleach. So I
Yeah,
just,
we did ink and bleach. Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Is that
So
where that portrait came from? The portrait you now do you think it inspired you to keep going with the whole bleach and ink stuff? You've used that
actually,
since, haven't you?
yeah, I mean, actually, how that came about is my current art teacher in A levels. His main medium is ink and bleach, and his work is really
Ah,
phenomenal, like
yeah.
ink, bleach, and charcoal. And he's
Okay.
like he's like very pro at using ink,
Yeah,
bleach, and
correct.
charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
So he was teaching us. Well, he encouraged us to use the medium.
Wow. Well, you're amazing at it, but it must have been nice to know that you'd had a go before, that it wasn't completely new to you.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I'll explain something about that portrait. I didn't like intentionally use ink and bleach, but I'll explain it later.
Oh,
But
okay.
um, yeah, but these were just the little trials. I remember you said we should just do like swatches, I think. So I really
Yeah,
had
little
fun with
practice.
this. This was very fun, I remember. And this was my first go with the spoon, and I remember, oh, this is not what I wanted at all,
Yeah,
but I
it's
just had to,
okay.
yeah. But I just had to like keep testing out the medium and seeing what worked and what didn't.
Mm.
And this was my second attempt. It was much better, and this was my
Yeah, look
third.
how much it changes. Amazing.
And I was just I was a lot happier with this, I remember. And this was the spoon. I really liked that outcome. This is when I finally sort of understood how to use it. The knife, and I really liked this
fantastic outcomes then. But you can see you're showing how you refined it from that piece where you weren't pleased with it with pencil, how far you came. You know what I mean? After those practices. Amazing.
Yeah. And this was the final outcome. This was just with the ladle and the knife and a fork, which is this.
Right.
And I tried to add some splatters just to,
because
I remember
part of the style.
I remember you saying just I don't know, I just remember you saying to be like expressive or just like letting loose and stuff, so that's why I added the splatters.
Well, I think sometimes with a media like that you're going to make splatters and kind of these error splatters just from the nature of doing it, and if you worry about that then it becomes a bit of a restriction. But if you just go with it and allow the splatters to be part of the work, then you're not so precious over it, I suppose.
Yeah, and you might find that you like your mistake, like you like how it turned out. Yeah. And this was
so we went on to portraiture. That now so we did lots of photography on portraiture. You can skip through, go quick through these. You did so many lovely photos, but you've got task 11 to look at that. You did proportions. Was this the first time you'd really done portraiture? No, because you've done characters and anime though, right? So you kind of done people before.
Yeah, I kind of did people, but this was probably the first time I measured, like,
I see.
The proportions.
And
I wish I like sort of, if I'm being honest, I wish I paid more attention to this in particular, because like when I did go to A levels, I more so focused on portraits, as you could see. But like I found that some people are just really difficult for me to draw, and I didn't know why, and it's because I didn't like know the rules of proportion.
I see. So that was 6, but you know it was level 2, so it's a big jump to A level. But you'd learnt the foundations at least. So we did actually, didn't we? The year that we did this, we were looking at Greek sculpture, so we could get our research as well. Refine our skills. And if you scroll through to your actual drawings from Greek sculpture, and then they came out really lovely.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the Greek sculpture. I remember really loving learning about it and all, and learning from the Greeks.
I mean, it's how Michelangelo learnt, so it's got to work for summer. Amazing. Look at the perspectives of some of these. Kind of makes you think about it.
And one thing I did remember trying to do at Ocad was trying to sort of challenge myself. So if it was like a straightforward view, I mean, that would be easy to do, but I did like a bit of a challenge. Even if I wasn't that good, I could always just move on.
Yeah.
And this was just an eye study and a small lip study.
Very lovely. They're really, really wonderful. But your final piece, you went back to, I think it was bleach. I think you did.
Yeah,
I did Constellation.
Oh yeah, the Constellation. And this was more experimentation. This was just with a pen, and this was with watercolor. Like, watercolor is the medium I'm most comfortable with when it comes to traditional art. I have like the most control, I think.
Okay.
So I just wanted to try a medium I really liked. So that was that result. And this was a really big charcoal.
Yeah, you can see, I really wanted people to try scale, and I still do. You know, it really changes how you work, doesn't it, when you've got that big piece of paper?
And I think it's easier to put in details, and it's a lot nicer. I mean, it might take more time, but it is really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice experience. So that was all this practice was kind of task 6 and 7 for those that follow this course. So task 7 then was kind of refining a final portrait, wasn't it, in black and white, which we kind of stuck with Greek art. I think now a lot of students will probably be using photos of actual people, but it's not essential. You kind of did that when you got to task 11 and 12, didn't you? But for now it was you stuck to the Greek art, but it works really nicely. Scroll down till we get to you're refining all of these ideas. It's just great. Your development's amazing. Was that the final?
Yeah, this was the final, and I believe these are just constellations that I added around it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was
nice.
basically it.
Nice. So then, so we kind of do all this black and white art, and a lot of students kind of, if they start with task 1, it's black and white, black and white, black and white, observation, observation, observation for all this time. It doesn't have to kind of be like that. I mean, you started with landscape, which has been quite a breath of fresh air, really, because you kind of got to bounce around and use colour earlier on in the course. But task 8 and 9 that you're about to show now, how did you find using colour? Because we kind of learned about the theory of it, didn't we? That's what you've wrote up there. So pass through your research. You did some nice research on that. Were you the pair group? Were you doing the acrylic pair?
Oh yeah, I did, but I don't know if
Yeah.
I added it to this.
I'm sure it's. Yeah, I'm thinking when I said, but anyway, we'll see when you scroll down. So we did lots of theory, and you were comfortable with color. Do you think it pushed how you saw color and used it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember before Ocad, I like color in general. I really like color, so I did know some color theory knowledge, but I think actually using it like traditionally was very new to me, and I think that helped a lot, especially like with my circle. I mean, my spheres, which we'll see in a bit. But this was like my little color wheel, and I just wrote primary,
Learning
secondary,
about all the
all
colors.
of them. And this was more photography.
Yeah, you're combining colors now, aren't you, to kind of get
Yeah.
mood and atmosphere and things like that into your work, which you did through photography. You did a lovely observation of that, I remember. You scroll down, I'm sure your final.
Yeah, this was the oil pastel.
Yeah.
I remember this was pretty interesting because it's just I think it's a simple color theory concept just with green and like a dull-ish red, which is brown basically.
Yes.
And I did quite like that quite a bit. Oh, and another thing with Ocad is I'd always ask you about feedback. Just the bottom.
I think it's important. A lot of students want to finish a task completely before they talk to us and things, but to just drop us messages or put up work that's incomplete to get comments, especially because it's online, it's really necessary, isn't it, to get constant feedback and kind of build that relationship. And I'm really glad that you did that, because you really were quite conscious that you wanted, what do you think? I'd always get that.
Yeah.
Just tell me I'm on the right lines. What do you think about this one? It's nice. It's nice to, oh, there's your pair. It's coming.
So, but I remember asking you specifically about this because I wasn't too confident about how it looked and stuff. So that's probably why I wanted feedback.
Yeah. No, we encourage it. So I'm glad you brought up feedback, because I think it's important, especially with online, you know. I mean, when you're in a classroom, you're with tutors looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes. So you get that dialogue. But online, it's a slightly new way of thinking about how to communicate and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of that responsibilities with the students. So we're kind of waiting. So for someone to, you know, put all the, you know, just get going and send us anything if it's incomplete is, you know, we love it, because then we can help. So you did loads of these acrylic paintings. You really push yourself with this pair, using all these different kinds of mixes. I mean, how did you find that?
Sorry about the background, but I was actually one of those people that didn't like using acrylic because I also thought it dried too quickly. So I remember this demonstration like opened my eyes a bit about the different ways of using acrylic. And this was the first time I actually did an underpainting. And you'll see I used it later on, like my portrait. And like the blending method I thought was pretty neat, because I think acrylic is just one of those mediums that are a bit hard to approach at first. But I think one thing to remember is like people just in general don't like what they don't understand, and I didn't understand acrylic. So
It is, you're right. There's so many people that say it dries too quick. I need something else. I need time to blend and things like that. But you're right. I think when you see someone using it and you get the confidence just to use it for what it is. I mean, you've got gouache and you've got watercolors for those kind of things. And you've even got oil paints that can will take 24 hours to dry. So, you know, you could take your time over it. But I don't know. You did well with acrylics. It's nice to try it at least. It's a good one to learn, I think. The layering is because it's the layers. That's an
Yeah.
important process, I think.
Quite a bit of layering. And there was just the splatter. I remember the splatter. And yeah, that was my acrylic. And this is I found this pretty interesting.
The
Like
color scales.
yeah, the color scales. Especially with the spheres. This was with gouache. But I really liked how it looked.
Yeah.
Especially this purple one. And
so kind of what we were doing, just to put this into context, keep scrolling, but this, just so you can show everyone, these were the color combinations, weren't they? You were kind of applying all that color theory, showing the different moods, different atmospheres, how color affects art. And we did that quite in a lot of detail, and then how to tone as well. So just for a bit of context here, this is what task 8 and 9 is. So then you applied all of that color theory in what final piece? Can you remember what you did?
So it was this.
Oh, yeah. And you use watercolors, I think. You've got lovely color combinations here with the pastel.
I used gouache.
Oh, did you? But it just looked faint. Oh, yeah. Because gouache is it's like acrylic and watercolor. It's a bit of a mixture, isn't it? So you can really water it down. So I think your skills in watercolor, I think, really helped you here.
Oh, yeah, probably. I remember it was a bit difficult because I wasn't that accustomed to using gouache, but I eventually got it, I think. I did like the effect, I remember. But this was...
That was your task 9. So task 10, we'll go through task 10 quite quick because it's a long one. But how do you feel about historical context? Do you do old artists? Was this kind of the first time you were given someone like old?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. And that's one thing I really, really liked about Ocad, just the art history aspect of it. Because, I don't know, I think art history in general is really interesting. Yeah. And even now, like in my free time, I always watch like little videos like on TikTok or whatever, and I'm just watching art history videos, and they're very intriguing. But this was the Cézanne post-impressionist, and I really did like his style, actually.
Yeah. Because it is different, and I think we're not trying to replicate Cézanne here, but we're just learning his approach, the way that he looked at forms to that extent, until food was rotting, he was looking at them for such a long time, that kind of thing. And the fact that he did composition with leading lines, and so we could put all that knowledge together, like, so you could learn from him from composition point of view, from forms point of view. And not everyone's art has to look like his at the end, but kind of look at that, is lovely. So you were using watercolors and all sorts, weren't you, to replicate kind of his style.
And there was a lot of layering. A lot of layering here.
That's a lovely piece. It's nice to kind of try and loosen up a bit with Cézanne, I think, because a lot of students have done realism for quite a few of these tasks, so it's really nice to kind of suddenly branch out and be a bit experimental, So you do the effect really nicely. So did you end up doing like a watercolor piece? What did you find as your inspiration with Cézanne in the end? Probably composition, because you did quite a lot of photos, if I remember.
Yeah, I did quite a few photos. I really liked how much thought he put into his composition. So I remember wanting my composition to have just as much thought.
Yeah, I remember you doing that.
Yeah, but I think at the end I just used acrylic. So a lot of watercolor studies, but oh yeah, there was this skull, and I really liked doing this. I remember. And this was with acrylic, I think.
See, a lot of students, they feel that they have to do complete finished paintings, but I think this is such a wonderful example of how you give something a go and then could move on. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have things complete in the portfolio all the time. This is the experimental stage to teach you the skills. And I think you've got some lovely examples here of what we're kind of asking when we get to this. And the colours you use there in the skull, that's really wonderful. They're really great.
Yeah. I had quite a bit of fun with this study.
With that one.
And more watercolor. And this was the composition that we were learning about, just with the rule of thirds and the leading lines and the triangular.
It must really help you even now with portraiture, even that concept.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the triangular composition and
golden ratios and things. We did quite a lot, didn't we? So I remember covering this probably in a 3-week period. Did it take you longer? I mean, is this about 3 weeks worth of work for you, or can you remember that far back? I mean, it looks such an incredible amount of work, but we have 2 live lessons a week, and I think I did Cezanne in 3. So we did
we did Cezanne for a very long time. I remember doing
it
that.
seemed like quite a long time, because that's quite far into the term. So maybe not quite half a term, but you must have done a good month.
Yeah, probably.
Just to put into context, there's lots of pages here.
Oh, sorry, there was a power trip.
No, it's okay.
But I probably
lived in Africa.
Sorry?
I remember that happening a lot when I was in Africa.
Yeah, it happens too much. But anyway, it did take me about a month, maybe even a month and a week to do, because I was just I did a lot like with the photos. I think this triangular, the composition work just took me a week though.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of planning. I think it was teaching a lot about the planning that goes into an artwork. If you do put the time in, the outcome obviously gets the benefit from that time. And also you've got so much evidence here of processes and sampling and developing many that you possibly might not have needed all 17 tasks just from the amount of work you did on this one. I know you wanted to, because you wanted to just experiment so much, but just for the perspective of the course, I mean, if students put so much time into a task like you have here, it kind of gains them credit in so many areas. This is what makes the course flexible, I think, because it's all just evidence-based. So this is a great example of just, a big task, let's say. It's like a mini project, this one, wasn't it? From start to finish. Yeah.
And with Cezanne, I remember he just had like a lot of wine glasses and a lot of wine bottles and grapes.
You kind of went down that traditional route. Not all students did, but you kind of did follow his kind of fruits and still life way. But it works. It really worked. You had some nice shapes there. So scroll through. Let's have a look at this final piece, because we've still got several tasks to just have a quick look at. So you did say you did a lot of photos. Yeah, you did. But it's good. You were analysing them as well as you were going through. You're explaining your learning. So
I don't think I posted the photo actually, but it was just a painting of this one here.
Okay. I think I remember that. That's okay though. And even some students get to that point and they can't paint it, or they want to move on. And I think that's okay as well, because some artwork, a lot of your learning, the processes you go through could just end there. And then you could apply it completely to something completely different. So it's not like every time you have to have an actual final painting. I mean, you passed the skill builder without it, obviously. But lovely compositions. You did a good job. So right then, so we've come out of Cezanne.
This is more portrait.
This is now here, isn't it? This is now what kind of started you off, really, your lovely family.
Oh yeah, so, these are schoolmates as well. And that was just like talking about like leading lines and expressions, like because I think in the portraiture lesson we were talking about how it can be a reflection of your personality, your portrait that you do. And and that was just like focusing on lighting and stuff. So here I tried to do a gouache painting, but with this
your pictures now, your portraits are exactly that. They capture the person just so beautifully, and I think you really do think about the mood and the emotion of the person and the atmosphere of the whole painting. So this process helped with that, because so many get so focused on trying to get everything so perfect and exact, but sometimes it's more of an expression of that person and their personality. And that's what characters are. That's what anime is. That's what manga is. How do you get them to look like they're the kind, sweet person, or they're the baddie? Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to learn how and where that concept comes from, and you do that really well. So, but your observation drawing is phenomenal here. So you did lots of samples, didn't you, of different facial features, just to kind of learn the face.
But I
That's
had a lot
great.
of fun with this, I remember, because I just like faces in general. Like, that's
Yeah.
my.
You can tell now, Michelo, this is where Michelo is really coming into her own. But all those skills on observation and all those skills on tonal shading, it's all becoming useful now, isn't it? With
Yeah,
this, you're putting
definitely.
it all together now.
Yeah. And this
Then
was like
start
my
painting.
my final outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted it to be floral-esque, like
Yeah.
similar to this.
Yes.
And this was gouache. I used gouache and acrylic, and it really didn't work.
Didn't
So I
work.
had
Yeah.
to think of something else. But I still really wanted the flowers there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a watercolor trial that I tried to
Yeah.
do, but I didn't quite like the effect as much. And I also found this artist whose work I just really liked and wanted to incorporate in my portrait. So
Mm-hmm.
that was me experimenting with that as well.
With them. Yeah.
And this is me, and
Mm-hmm.
I just edited it so I could have an easier time drawing it out.
Drawing it.
And I,
Yeah.
and I tried to mimic this artist, but I found like I don't think my skill set quite understood what was going on here, so it didn't really work out.
That was a
So
time-consuming thing. Something for the
yeah,
final project, that is, where you can
yeah.
spend a long time on the details. Yeah.
Mhm. So I actually went back to acrylic and back to the red
Mhm.
underpainting. I thought it worked pretty okay with my skin tone and all.
Yeah.
And this was it. I actually just painted over this again with white. And like
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of see here. And I like sort of wanted this sort of painterly strokes on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I this is basically the process.
Lovely. Yeah.
And I did the other face with watercolor,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a bit of a red underpainting, but I think I was very shy, but this was
Yeah.
basically it.
It's
And
harder with watercolor because these two paints are very, very different on how they layer and where you get your highlights and
yeah,
your shadows from, you know. So you're doing a lot of different styles and processes here. You
yeah,
know, people who paint this way, maybe later on in our courses will appreciate just how difficult something like that is. Because you know, you've got two very, very different medias here.
quite, yeah, definitely. Like you kind of have to jump into a new mentality of painting.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, you word
Yeah.
it better than me. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, very hard.
And my solution to the flowers, because I really wanted them, was I just painted flowers and I cut them out and I
Yeah,
just positioned them.
collage them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
It's a
that
lovely
was
piece. So
my
lovely.
my
Yeah.
final.
Because something like that as well would have covered task 16 because task 16 is mixed media and that's exactly mixed media
Oh,
what you've done there.
yes,
So some
yes.
students kind of combine them, you know what I mean? And then they've got more evidence as they go on. But as you will see, Michelo just kept going, wanted to have a go at
Yeah.
all these different artists.
Uh-huh. And then task 14 was actually, I think it was the second thing I did ever at Ocad. So I
Yeah,
might
we're going back to
portfolio
the
isn't in
beginning on that.
order of
Mm-hmm.
how I did them, but yeah. And these were just photos around my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's just photography. And yeah. And then mixed media was task 16, but I don't think I think this was another task where I didn't quite understand the point.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think my portrait captured task
it did.
15
Yeah,
better,
it did.
but
So some
yeah.
people go down the whole alternative route and try completely different things like sticking stuff on, maybe embellishments or using card or, you know, paper or whatever. But, you know, it can be done in so many different ways. So again, task 16 was a bit of an experiment for you, I think, just to,
Yeah.
you know, sample something different.
Yeah. So I went back to the Statue of David because I really liked the Statue of David after learning about him.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a portrait I did. I did not, anyway, this is a portrait I did. Yeah. And it was mixed media-esque.
Yeah.
And I moved on to something a little different, which is like embroidery.
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was pretty interesting, especially
Yeah,
this
not very
artist. I liked
different.
her work.
Mm.
And I did this. This is just like this is an embroidery, but this is just pattern fabric.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I just like glued on the
It's
the
nice. It's such a nice experiment, a completely different way of, how you can translate your own photo into that shows
mm,
your creative thinking. Do you know what I mean? And how you can now apply so many different processes to any of your images. So I think it
yeah.
was still an important process to have gone through. I really like it. Now, sculpture, very, very quickly, is
Yeah.
we did, and again, all the live lessons are there for our students to go through. We must have done this over about a month as well, where we
Hmm.
started with the leaves
Yeah, it
and
was quite
relief.
long.
But your final outcome is so cool.
Yeah, he's
It's
still in my
very
room.
expressive. Do you still have it?
Yeah, I do. Actually, maybe I can bring it. I might
Yeah,
bring it.
have you got it? It's
Yeah,
so cool.
okay. Okay, let me just go and get it. I'll
Okay,
be
okay,
right
all right. So yeah, the live lessons are available. So anyone who wants to do this when you're with Ocad, all of these lessons are still there, all our demonstrations, all the live videos, we record them, and then you can watch them and do any of these tasks in this way. So we did a lot of leaf printing, we did some relief sculpture, and then we did busts. So we were kind of learning more about the face. We went back to task six when we were looking at proportions and how you could translate that in 3-dimensionally. So this is the final outcome that Michelo did, and it was it's got such a great feeling about it, like very expressionist, I suppose. She did a really good job of it. So Michelo kind of focused on portraiture, which we'll go into quickly before we sign off, when she went to do A-levels, where she focused a lot on portraiture. And so all of this stuff must have really helped. Go on then. I'm just telling everyone how we kind of got to the process of doing busts, which kind of seems a bit random, but you managed to
Yeah.
do this clay sculpture bust at home with online
Yeah.
learning. So, and in Zambia as well. So
Hmm.
quite an incredible thing to get all your materials and stuff. But go on, talk us through it a little bit and show it, because it's just so brilliant.
So you can see it on screen, right? I can
I
see
can see
myself.
your yeah, we can see you. I know you can't see what we can see, but yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, so actually, I remember I did this in December, and
Mhm.
I actually, before I went to A-levels, I was in South Africa, and that's where I got the clay from. Because it's actually very hard to get supplies here in Zambia. I remember
Mhm.
even with the charcoal, it was a bit difficult for me to get things.
Yeah.
But this clay I got that from South Africa, and
Okay.
like these experiments here like helped a lot because I didn't really know how to I
Use
didn't really
clay.
know how to use it, but
Mm.
this was one of the tasks, and this was just some Greek
Yeah, we
uh
did Greek again, didn't we? We were looking at Greek sculpture and how,
yeah,
yeah, contemporary sculpture as well.
yeah. So this was the final outcome,
Mm.
and I was basing it off of this model. Well, I was just like, I needed to look at a real face, I think, but
Yeah.
it doesn't quite exactly look like him. But
But in that way, I would just say it's like an expression, though, isn't it? It's
yeah,
kind of, it doesn't have to be so realistic and in proportion, but it's just got
yeah.
such a great expression. I mean, did you just leave it at that, or did you decide to leave it at that color? I mean, would you have treated
Um,
it some way if you'd have had the time? I mean, it would have been quite a lot to have painted it or whatever.
no, I actually really like it like this because I
Yeah.
remember learning about color and stuff. We were learning about why why some sculptures are left white, and it's
Hmm.
like to show the shadows. And I really like how light gets
How
casted
it
on
looks, yeah.
pictures as well.
You captured
And
in great in the photography because of that as well, I think, 'cause you could play with the light.
yeah, and this was like the beginning stage. Like this is how it looked like at first, and I just
Mm-hmm.
added a few
Yeah.
dreadlocks, and this was um this was it in the middle stage here in the corner, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the final outcome. And I added the eye patch. I remember because his eye wasn't turning out right for me, so I just gave him an eye patch.
Cool. Artistic license, love it.
Uh-huh.
It's great. It's great. It looks like you're using a lot of your skills or experience with illustration here and characters.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I remember watching a few YouTube videos as well, just to know. And one of your demonstrations, like there's a little tinfoil mold cast thingy inside it, and I remember watching a few YouTube videos on sculpting faces, and that also helped a little. And definitely my drawing of people helped a lot, because I think one thing I did like about Ocad was how rounded you become, because once you know one medium or one skill, I think it helps with everything else. Because when I did this, it was very interesting to think of the face like 360, since you usually draw it from
one angle
side, but you kind of have to take into consideration everything. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for showing us that. I remember that series. Yeah. Cool. We had some really great outcomes from this task, actually, because sculpture it doesn't have to be a bust, but we just kind of that year that's the demonstrations that we did, but it just turned out really well. We had so many different ways, and a lot of students who love anime and illustration really enjoyed creating characters out of clay, I must say. So that's your skill builder. Oh my goodness. So that is kind of, we were talking about this, wasn't it, a bit of a typical one in length. They're normally about 100 pages, 120 pages long by the end, but yours has extensive evidence, I must say, because you just tried so many different skills, so many different things. So we've got about 5 minutes, so let's look at some of your A-level stuff, because you've gone from that and you jumped straight into A-level art. But you've got some amazing things, like you mentioned to me you were on a magazine.
Oh yeah. So in South Africa, that's where I'm doing my schooling. They have they have a magazine, and it's an international magazine, and it like showcases literature works from students from all over South Africa. But they only choose one artwork, which is like for the cover. So I managed.
Got it. Such a great thing. Congratulations. And that is just an incredible piece of art. Amazing. Did you do it specifically for this? Is it like a competition you entered, or?
No, actually, it was just part of my coursework for A-level. And it was actually very random. Like I just received an email from one of my art teachers one evening, and they said, "Oh, you qualified for an award at school." And I was like, "For what? Like, what did I do?" And she said, "Oh, you're on the magazine. You got the magazine cover." And I was like, "What magazine cover?" So she basically entered for me.
Okay. So, but it wouldn't have happened without all this hard work and without all the work that you put into it leading up to it. And I think, for some people, they could enter competitions and they could be putting themselves forward for a lot of things. But I think sometimes, your skills are they're going to be noticed one day, aren't they? And yours came on this magazine. So well done. I mean, that's just amazing. So you're focusing on, you said one of your tutors, or the tutor, is amazing in South Africa, like with his ink and portrait. So you must be learning a lot still and really be refining this skill. So is it all portraits now that you do? Is that the main thing? I saw still life.
Sorry?
I saw a still life. Sorry, I just thought as I asked that question, like you showed me a flower earlier.
Yeah, it is the main thing I focus on these days. I might like branch out this year because I'm in my second year of A-levels now, but it is like my main thing now. But with this portrait, we were actually just originally we were just using ink, and like we were just using different dilutions of ink. And what had happened was one of the brushes had leftover bleach, which is what created that sort of halo effect and bleach spots. And on the darker side of the face, I
Mm-hmm.
use some charcoal as well. So
Okay. It's a
it's
bit of a mixed
technically
media.
just
It's
ink
stunning.
and
It's so
charcoal.
gorgeous.
Thank you.
Amazing.
And um, let me see. So this was something I did. This is very impressionisty, I thought anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
it was inspired by an artist I follow on Instagram.
Okay.
And I thought this was this definitely reminded me of the impressionist task. We did a Van Gogh lesson
Mm-hmm.
as well, but I didn't really participate in that one. But
Mm-hmm.
it did remind me of that,
Yeah.
especially like this area here, the swirl.
The swirls, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? We do so many lessons that sometimes you might want to stay doing what you did a couple of weeks ago because you're kind of getting somewhere with it. So even just
Yeah.
watching the lessons as you're showing now, it still sticks and you still learn quite a lot, even if you don't get to
Yeah.
actually do the artwork. So,
Exactly.
there's a lot of lessons there to learn from still. So,
Yeah.
wow, this is just great stuff. So, are you going to hope now to go into uni? Is that kind of the direction? Because I know the South African system's a bit different to here, and
Um,
with the
yeah.
whole how you can move through the institutions. But is that kind of the plan for you?
Yes, it is the plan, but as you said, it is different. The school year in South Africa starts in January and ends in October, November. So I'm gonna have to take about a 6 month gap because
Okay.
I would like to attend uni in Canada. I'm not
Oh, okay.
I'm not entirely sure which part of Canada the uni is in, but I would like to go there. So that is the plan for 2022.
Cool. Okay. You'll get there, Michelle. Your work is just amazing. Is this someone you know?
Now this is me again,
It's you.
but
I was just gonna say, as I said it, I was like, that looks like you. I don't know if you've got a relative that you look like. It's
no,
just, but
this
it's
is
you.
me again. But our teacher like encouraged us to use different types of drawing. So here I use the grid method, which I'm
Ah,
not entirely fond of because I think it's a tiny bit restrictive. So
yeah,
um, so that's what I used here.
yeah.
So I think that's why the drawing is like not how I usually draw it, but yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
this was just a watercolor piece, and
Hmm.
we focused on a lot of layering here.
Yeah.
My first layer was green, and then red, and then
I
brown
see.
eventually. Yeah.
Great. I love how now they're like proper art pieces. The background's all included. It's sort of like you're thinking in so many dimensions now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? When you start at level 2, it's like the drawing. I see so many like floating fruits through a
Yeah.
white page, and I'm like, come on, right then, what background should we put in? So
Hmm.
yeah, you can see your skills really refining here. Oh, I just think you're such a superstar. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And you're such an ambassador to Ocad. I just think you're going to inspire so many people with our chat today. So thank you. Thanks for coming back and chatting to me.
It was such a
Um,
pleasure. I'm glad we had a chat and talked about it, and I do hope it inspires people.
Yeah, it will, Michelle. It really will. If I get any students come back and have questions, I'm sure you're not going to mind having me ask you on email if anyone's
Yeah.
got anything to ask you
Yeah.
and about your experiences and stuff, because it's
Hmm.
not easy online. I mean, you've,
No.
you've you've been so lovely saying lots of wonderful things, but it can be difficult as well. Everyone's remote from each other. We're all around the world.
Mhm.
We have to rely on the kind of online platforms and technology, but you show that even from living somewhere where you can't always get the resources and you can't, I mean, you just said you just had a cut in your power, and yet
Yeah.
you didn't falter at all online. So it can be done. And
And
look at all this fantastic art you're doing. And I think you were saying as well, with lockdown and everything, you've kind of had to work online, and it's
yeah,
kind of not phased you, which I'm sure some other students will be finding this incredibly difficult to suddenly be not
definitely.
in a setting. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it definitely prepared me for back to online learning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think one challenge, well, I don't know if I'd call this a challenge with online learning is that I didn't really have anyone else who did art who was around me. So when I actually was with people who did art, I thought it was a very interesting environment because it's just something I've never had before.
Yeah.
And like maybe I had unrealistic expectations of what an art class would be like, but yeah, that was one thing.
Yeah. Have you enjoyed it though? It must be nice being surrounded by others doing the same sort of things, learning and bouncing off them. That must be a big bonus.
It was definitely, and I met a lot of different types of artists, which is nice. Which is
yeah, we're kind of trying to develop that a little bit, and it's really come on the last 12 months or so, because we do a lot more interaction, so a lot of students get to share their work now, and we have kind of this portal where everyone kind of shares their work, and we show portfolios, and obviously this chat's going to be on there as well. So it's really wonderful that students get to see that, because as you say, online learning, it can be a bit isolating, and you might feel like you're kind of on your own, but I think with you joining live lessons and chatting with people on that must have helped a lot, because students ask questions that are probably in your head as well. So having that dialogue, even though it's online, would have been really nice. So I'm glad you did the live lessons too. Well, Michelo, thank you. I won't keep you any longer. We've been chatting. Gosh, I could just talk to you for ages and keep looking at your work. You've done such amazing stuff. Keep in touch with us, won't you? We will keep sharing Michelo's work, and I'm sure at the end of your A level, maybe we'll have another chat and you can show us what you've been doing towards your final project. That would just be so wonderful. So thank you for sharing your entire skill builder with us. It's going to really help so many students. So we're really, really grateful. And yeah, I will message you very soon, but we better say goodbye now, because it's very late.
12 p.m. It's 12 a.m. now.
Michelo's been talking until midnight. You're a superstar. I just really hope we talk again really soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Michelo. Goodbye from me and everyone at Ocad. We wish you all the very, very best, and we're just so glad we're still in touch. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Bye.
Take care, Michelo. Stay safe. Bye for now. Bye-bye.